What happens when two bored teens outsmart an entire HOA? Back in high school, my pride and joy was a rusted, noisy, dented piece of metal that technically qualified as a car. It barely ran, the paint was peeling, and the passenger window was permanently stuck halfway down, but it was mine. I loved that thing like it was a luxury vehicle. I was learning how to take care of it too. I had just discovered how to check the oil with the dipstick, which made me feel like a real mechanic. One afternoon, I drove to my friend's house. We popped the hood, pulled the dipstick, checked the oil, and called it a success. No tools, no repairs, just two clueless teens standing proudly in front of a car that barely started. I had no idea what an HOA even was. To me, it was just another normal day being responsible. A few days later, I stopped by his house again. His mom came home holding a letter and looking unimpressed. "Do you two know anything about this?" she asked, waving the paper in front of us. It was an official warning from the HOA. Apparently, they'd taken a photo of my car with its hood up and accused us of performing unauthorized car repairs in the driveway. I was baffled. "We weren't fixing anything. I was just checking the oil." His mom sighed, clearly annoyed, but mostly with the HOA. She pulled out the HOA rulebook, and sure enough, there it was. No vehicle repairs may be conducted in driveways. We reread that line about 5 times. It didn't say anything about checking oil or even opening the hood, just repairs. That's when I looked at my friend, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Fight the power?" He grinned. "Fight the power." We told his mom the plan. To our surprise, she loved it. She was just as tired of the HOA's nonsense as we were. So the next day after school, we drove to his house, parked our cars in the driveway, and popped both hoods open. Then we did absolutely nothing. No tools, no rags, no touching. Just stood there looking at our engines like we were admiring fine art. The next day we did it again and again. Every day after school we'd park, lift the hoods, and just stare. Sometimes we'd talk about homework. Sometimes we'd eat snacks. Once I even set up a folding chair and just read a book next to my open hood like it was a pet getting some fresh air. After a week, I decided to take it up a notch. I brought out an easel and sketch pad and started drawing my car's engine, 10 minutes at a time. My friend, not to be outdone, decided to turn it into an art project of his own. He grabbed a camera and took dramatic black and white photos of himself posing with his engine. At one point, he climbed onto the hood, shirtless, pretending to embrace his car like it was a romance movie scene. We were high schoolers with too much free time and a shared sense of mischief. Predictably, the HOA went wild. The letters came flooding in. First warnings, then fines. They sent photos as proof. My car with the hood open, my friend draped across his like he was in a magazine shoot, me at my easel sketching away. Every letter was more serious than the last. When the HOA meeting came around, his mom decided it was time to settle things. She brought us along for moral and comedic support. We walked into that meeting like we were going to court. His mom carried a stack of letters and photos. I brought my sketch of the engine. It was awful, but it looked official enough. My friend had printed his art photos on glossy paper just to make them harder to ignore. When it was her turn to speak, his mom stood up and calmly explained that she'd been fined repeatedly for something that wasn't in the bylaws. One of the board members interrupted, saying, "Working on cars is against the rules." She smiled and said, "Yes, but the bylaw says repairs. There are no repairs happening in any of these photos." Then she handed over the evidence. First, my sketch. Then, the series of pictures showing my friend dramatically posing on his hood. The room went silent. One board member actually choked back a laugh. Another tried to keep a straight face but failed miserably. The HOA president asked for a short recess, and the entire board huddled in the corner, whispering furiously. After a few minutes, they came back. The president cleared his throat and said, "Ma'am, the board has decided to dismiss all your fines. Thank you for coming in." We walked out of that meeting like champions. My friend and I could barely keep straight faces until we got to the parking lot. His mom laughed the whole way home, and of course we couldn't resist doing it a few more times, popping our hoods, taking new, artistic photos, and leaving them there for hours. The HOA never sent another letter. For the rest of that year, every time I checked my oil, I made sure the hood stayed up an extra 5 minutes, just for old time's sake. That car might have been worth $5, but the look on those HOA board members' faces, that was priceless.